with my merry band of support. Dieter Staudinger on the bass, no, on the technical stuff. Diane on the flight attendant stuff, and Eric on the make sure that Capt Ron doesn't lie stuff. So anyway, or maybe Eric's got his own lies in it. And we have a special guest tonight too. So we want to welcome you all. This is Clear for Takeoff, or Fearless Flight Live. And it's our weekly show for anyone who has a fear of flying, or if you know somebody who has a fear of flying, or you just like to listen to us talk about the airline industry and what's going on out there. So we do this every week, and we're glad when you can join us, whether it's live or whether you join us, join the recording afterwards. Make sure you leave a comment in there and let us know that you stopped by. And please tell everybody else about that as well. I want to, let me share just real quick here. See if I can do this and get it all right. Please tell me that you're looking at my title slide.
There it is.
Okay, cool. So this is Fearless Flight Live, as I said, and we always want to mention our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather private support group, and we encourage you to join that. We're up over 2,000, or let's see, 2,000.
No,
yeah,
over 1,200, almost 1,300.
1,200. I got ahead of myself there. Anyway, we have a really active group there, and if you ever, just want to tip your toes in the water, this is a good place to do it. You go over to Facebook, and that link right there, and you can join us and add your contribution to the group. Tonight we have a special guest, Claudia Hudson, and before I invite Claudia to come on the screen here, what I'm going to do is, that's fine. That's fine, Claudia.
That's fine, Claudia.
I kind of did a head fake there. What I want to mention is we have, we want to talk about or advertise for sure the Clear for Takeoff 301 classes that we have coming up. One, both of them next month, one on March 11th. I'll be flying out to Boston. And we'll be going from Boston to Baltimore on Saturday, March 11th. And on March 25th, I'll be flying over to Burbank, and we'll be flying from Burbank up to Sacramento and back again. So I've had a number of questions from people who maybe took the 201 before, but didn't take the 301. Particularly, I had a couple of people in Boston. Anybody can take this. Okay, and Dieter will put the link in the notes and in the chat here. So this is open to anybody. If you have taken the 201, then you become and you're current with one of our memberships, or you're actively taking the 201, then you get a $200 discount on the tuition for the 301 class. But the most important thing is to get ready early by going over to Southwest and getting your tickets there. And you can do that once you pay the tuition. You'll get all the information on the flight there. You want to do that before they go up any higher. The fares are not getting cheaper, folks. Everybody's got the idea that they're going to make up what they lost during the pandemic, apparently, and so fares are going up, and the flights are full. I just got back today myself from Mexico, and they're not having any trouble filling the seats at the fairs that are out there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, Captain Ron at FearlessFlight.com, about the 301. And we hope to see a lot of you out there. We did it. It seems like it was yesterday, but it was last year when we last flew in Boston. And I'm trying to move them around the country. So this is Boston's shot again. And then we're going to do another class in LA, since we have a lot of followers over there. So take a look at that, see if it might interest you, and let us know if you have any questions. Let's see, I had a couple of anecdotes about my Mexico trip. I'll do that because that doesn't make me look any smarter. I forgot wallet last week. I had my passport and all that. I got to checked in, and I had a bag, and I forgot when I'm traveling as a non-revenue former employee, I don't have to pay a bag tag fee. And sure enough, of course, I buy a ticket, then I waive that right to the free bag and had to pay for one. And I got there first time. And fortunately, I got a great neighbor who got into my house and brought my passport out there. it really ruined my heart rate for a little bit there. But anyway, we made it. Had a great time down there. So, okay, now I will bring Claudia on, and she and I had a fun conversation. Well, it was fun for me anyway. And okay, and it's just so I'm not sharing anymore, right? It's we're all live.
Yes, sir. You're all live. We're all live.
Well, welcome, Claudia. And I was minding my own business at the pool at the hotel in Puerto Vallarta, and I checked my things for. I don't know how long you've been trying. I can't remember that, but
it hadn't been long. You were very responsive.
And I just happened to be laying out there alongside the pool, and I looked down and there was Claudia. And I thought, oh, what a convenient time to have a conversation there. And let me put this up on the screen there. And well, first, let's just talk about, what was going on when you wrote that text to me, because you're not the only one, believe me. I encourage people to do that, and it's always fun to hear from people because it's such real time, and I know that they're not kidding. So tell us how you decided to call me or send a text at that particular point in time.
So how that had come about is I had already flown cross country on the way out to my trip, and was nervous, but had pulled it off. So I wasn't quite as nervous on the way back. But before takeoff, the pilot announced significant turbulence, which for fearful flyers, and especially people that don't like turbulence, while I appreciated the transparency, it would have been really nice to have some level of detail, like, half an hour in, the entire time, like how bad is this going to be? And significant is for fearful flyers, significant, anyone that's been on a really, intense flight kind of doesn't want that. So it's
turbulence is one of the big triggers for people, right? I mean, right. Whether you hear it from the pilot or whatever. And so when somebody comes on, and this is very common, people tell me, I was doing okay, and then they mentioned that we were going to have turbulence, and that's, you can't stop it from being a trigger at this stage of your working through this. And so that's what happened. So then just go ahead and amplify that. What happened after that?
Yeah. So, I figured, hey, we're still taxiing. At that point, we hadn't quite hit the runway. I sent you a text. You responded quickly. Yeah, there you go. So, at that point, I'm like, well, I'm not getting off the plane. So, what do I do at this point? Right. Fortunately, you'll note there in that text that I said the flight attendant said it was likely at descent. And that was my response, because you were like, how are you feeling? So what I was feeling was like, okay, when is this going to happen? How do I react? Because either way, I'm stuck with this. So, what is my best way to, kind of process these intense emotions and calm myself down when allegedly, inevitably, we were going to hit turbulence? Frankly, right. By the time we hit it, it was, we were almost ready to land. We were probably about 45 minutes out, and landing fortunately doesn't scare me, so it wasn't as bad. But yeah, that was my other response to you.
So when you said you're 45 minutes out, was that 45 minutes into the flight or 45
oh
minutes?
No, it was towards the end. And what's kind of funny that's worth mentioning is that, so I had a window seat, which I find that for myself really helps. I like flying during the day, and I like being able to look out the window. It gives me something to focus on, something to look at. And I started using some of the tricks that I've learned here surrounding, kind of what causes turbulence. And so I would notice, we hit a little bit of bumpiness that, I mean, it's technically turbulence, but it wasn't that bothersome. And sure enough, I'd look out the window and there were mountain ranges almost without fail. And then, as we got closer to the East Coast, because there was a storm happening, that's when it was a little, you could feel it. But you sent me over those breathing exercises. That was good.
Yeah.
And just kind of some other visuals that I found helpful.
Yeah. And so the reason I was really excited about having you on here, because you represent a lot of people that I talked to. We had done a 15 free 50-minute coaching call, right? And you hadn't done anything in particular with Fearless Flight, or we hadn't talked since that time. And so that's a lot of people. So you represent a lot of people who want to believe that this is going to be okay. And you were. And
I was.
You just can't predict when some lunkhead pilot is going to use terminology. He thinks he's doing the good thing, or she thinks that they're doing the best thing out there. But it's about the trigger. And then I love the way you express this, because you really clearly said, this is the story that I told myself, and this is what I tell people. So this is how you and other people, you can kind of redirect your learning and think where you want to go from this. Is look at the stories that you believe, and then either do some research, talk to us, or whatever. Just figure out, okay, what part of this story is not true, doesn't make sense, or is not factual, because if I believe the same thing that you do and told myself the same stories, I would be anxious as well, and that's I like to validate with people. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you don't have the information nor the experience that someone who flies a lot more does. Certainly not the crew and stuff like that. So when and just for anybody watching out there, when I saw her pop up on my text screen there, I basically just said, tell me what's going on. And she did. She was really present in there. And then I just had the idea of just doing a breathing thing. And then one of the fun things I can do is I can actually record an audio text and send it to you. And it's probably drives you crazy. It drives me crazy because I'm waiting for the delay. It's like, the ultimate telephone game where you don't.
There's
even
a lag.
Yeah. But it's kind of fun. And then I had to relocate from the pool. And then I got in another conversation. I intended to get back to you. So I apologize. I didn't get back when I wanted to until you'd already landed then, but you pretty well took care of yourself.
I did well. And, I'll tell you, I think it's really helpful, especially for people that, just kind of want some level of comfort, to just, if you're willing and wanting to do it, just be transparent with the flight attendants. As soon as I walked in the plane, I looked over the side, and there was a male flight attendant, and he just looked smiley and friendly. And so I said, I'm going to be honest, I'm a fearful flyer. If we're going to hit any kind of significant turbulence, because I know that's my biggest trigger. I didn't say that part, but, I said, feel free to come on over. And so it was funny because between him and then the flight attendant that was actually assigned to our section, who was also very lovely too, I just was really honest with him. And my partner was with me, and he knows, he knows that I have flight anxiety. He's a very calm flyer. He, used to be a frequent flyer for work. And so he doesn't care at all. But, the flight attendants were so friendly. And so the male flight attendant, he literally I could see him going up and down the aisles. And when he found me, because I'm sure he knew when that announcement went off that I was like, and so he found me, and he was just the nicest guy. And he basically, he said, listen, as long as you don't see us running like in a frenzy to our seats, we're all doing okay. And so he would just come around, he would talk he ended up bringing us all these snacks, all these drinks, he's like, and he said, he's like, a lot of people are not nice to us. So being nice to flight attendants is important, and they were just super friendly, really helpful. They let me know, they came back and they're like, it's probably going to be at descent. That's that text I sent you. So that was helpful. Like, okay, it's not going to be the full way. And then they just talked to us, and it was funny because at one point he was talking to us and we were hitting like a little patch of turbulence, nothing significant, but it's significant enough that he, kind of held the overhead just to balance himself. And so I said, that didn't make you nervous? And he's like, no. He's like, that's nothing. It's every day. So seeing their everydayness about it and how this is literally just me at my job, kind of helps demystify a lot of that.
So and that's a great place to talk about just a little bit, to demystify, and to me, that's another word for intervening on the story that you were telling yourself just minutes ago. So, I say educate people. I tell people, no matter who you are, no matter, most of the people think, I really don't worry about airplanes crashing. I just don't like being trapped in there when we get turbulence, get claustrophobia, but
That's
really
right.
is the key. And what you were doing, he was actually educating you about turbulence, in his own special way. Let me ask you this question. Did you identify yourself when you got on, did you early board? Did you identify yourself to the flight attendants or anything like that?
No, so I tried at the counter. I went up and I said, I'm a nervous flyer. Do you have any idea? I just, whoever the person was at the counter, I was like, do you have any idea, the quality of the flight? Are we going to hit turbulence? And he's like, oh, I don't know. The pilot probably knows. And that was it. And I was like, he's not going to help.
Let me just for everybody out there. That's why, if you can remember this, I say the words you want to use exactly are, I have a medical condition. Because when you say that, they cannot ask you anymore or talk to you about that. It's the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it's not that they don't mean well, but as soon as you say nervous flyer, then they usually go into some kind of dissertation. Say, oh honey, it's okay, it's safe, or they say, I'm sure the pilots, just like they did to you, and that's not what you need. You're not looking to negotiate anything. What you want is you want to get on the airplane first, and then when you meet the flight attendant, because now you're ahead of the boarding wave, so you won't get stuck in the jetway, particularly when it gets hot in Atlanta or Phoenix or something like that, because that can add to your anxiety. And then when you see the flight attendant, whoever greets you at the door, hi, my name is Claudia. I'm a nervous flyer. Now you can tell them the exact words, okay? And I'd like to meet the pilots. So then they will normally 9 times out of 10, or even more often, they will then introduce you to the pilots. And this is where I tell you, you got to train your pilots. So you say, hi, my name's Claudia, and I'm a nervous flyer. Specifically, I don't like turbulence. If you want, tell them whatever that is. But you say, any information you can provide me, I would appreciate. And I joke with some of the pilots I know. I say, even if you have turbulence on that flight, even if you don't know where exactly and how often, make up something, because I found that people who have anxiety about turbulence, it's better if you say, we only expect it to last for 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. They probably aren't going to start their stopwatch and judge you by that. But what it does is it gives them something to hang their confidence on, that it won't be forever. Okay.
Exactly.
And what you shared is what a lot of people share with me. When you hear that and it has it's significant, they use adjectives to modify it. You don't know what significant is. And significant in your mind is way different than what maybe the captain intends. But then it starts that worry train, and you get on, because now you don't know when, you don't know how long, you don't know what intensity. But there, I don't know if you saw as well, 2 weeks ago in the news, there was another picture of a Delta flight attendant and a passenger. So did you see that? So that's two.
So great. Big brownie points to them. They were so nice. And it was so funny because so I had to go gluten-free a couple of years ago. And I mentioned that I really liked one of the snacks he brought over because it was gluten-free. And he's like, oh, I'll be back. And he literally went and he came back, and I have like this bag. He probably sent home like 10 of them with me, and then like a whole bag of chocolates. And, it was just, they both gave me hugs on the way out. They were like, you were so good. So like, thank you.
Our resident flight attendant, Diane, before she was a flight attendant, she taught me, she said, you know what I do when I'm flying? And she did this out of courtesy. She bought, a few $5 gift certificates to Starbucks. So when you meet that first flight attendant, you might just slip them a Starbucks
That's
thing.
a good idea. Yeah.
And again, it makes a little connection. But what my experience is, when you identify yourself to the flight attendants, they will remember you. And so that, so they don't have to now discover you out of everybody else in that crowd, particularly if you're on a bigger airplane, like a wide body or something like that. And they will keep an eye on you. And as you know, just the attention helps break up where your thought process was going, and the key to overcoming fear of flying anxiety is your brain has to find something that's more interesting than what it has latched onto. So if it's stuck in significant turbulence and you're in turbulence, it needs to find some other way. And there's no better way than a flight attendant coming up to you, even in that one moment. All it takes is just a little breakthrough, where you can focus on them and give yourself a little bit of relief there. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, two things to mention of what you've mentioned so far. I'm not trying to tell people to, pick flights according to plane size, but I know for me, that is something I'm going to start doing. And because I've noticed the bigger the plane, the less I feel the turbulence and the less I'm apt to be triggered and the more I'm apt to walk away from the flight going, hey, that wasn't so bad. So that if and when I have no choice, if you will, but to fly a smaller plane, it'll like my mind will go, oh, you're feeling it because you're in a smaller plane, as opposed to this is just how it is. You're going to hate it every single time. I mean, when I had to fly literally around the world, I mean, I had to fly to India for work. I took a flight from LAX to Dubai, which was like the 5th longest flight in the world. And for someone who hates flying, I mean, thank goodness you're there to talk me through that one. But it was actually really smooth, like surprisingly smooth, because that thing was like a whale in the sky. And in this case, I was on a Neo, an Airbus Neo, I think is the name for it. I don't.
Right. Yeah, that's that and the stretch 737s, the Maxes, the 800s and 900s. Those are the most common airplane that people are going to fly on domestically in the U.S. During the pandemic, we had some wide bodies they put in service. So you might get a 777 or a 787, but now they're pretty much using those overseas again, and to go long distance. And
this one was the way there was like maybe it was 343, and the way back was maybe 333 or something like that. Two other things of what you said. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say, so you did have a wide body flight.
Yeah, they were both wide bodies. Yeah, I will intentionally, I'll just like, if depending on what airline I'm flying, I'll look at.
You're talking about when you went to India.
When I went to India, I was on a double decker. That thing was like, I can't even remember that. I mean, it was an Emirates. That's giant. That thing was like a city in the sky. I don't think it gets much bigger than
like
that.
a flying house.
What's that?
It's like a flying house almost. It's
it was so cool. I was so jealous of the people upstairs because they have beds and showers, and they came off the plane looking rested. And
So do you have any more flights coming up, Claudia, or?
No, but I've actually, I don't do a lot of like, kind of typical resolutions, but I really wanted to say, what, I'm going to do at least 2 round trip flights again this year, because I'd stopped flying during the pandemic. And it really reset me. I mean, I was in full-fledged panic mode before leaving. I mean, I had spiraled hard. But I wasn't not going to do it. I had to do it for work, not to mention I told myself I would be doing 2 round trips. So I don't, but I plan on scheduling one for this year. And, just kind of a couple other things that help me. Obviously, sit where you're comfortable. But I found that for me personally, I like sitting at the window. A lot of the knowledge that I glean from here and from your course is helpful because, like, for example, I'm able to see, like, we take off, and then as the plane turns, it gets a little shaky, not shaky, but it gets a little shaky as it's kind of finding its course. You see the flaps move. It demystifies a lot of like the mechanics of the plane, where what you're feeling matches with what you're seeing the literal plane doing. Recognizing that, certain clouds or certain, flying over mountain ranges or something is going to create that turbulence. For me, it helped. And I kept the map up on my screen and kind of turned it into like, almost like a sightseeing thing. I was really disappointed when we went up, I think, higher than 34,000 feet, because then I couldn't really see the ground as much.
Right. And again, those are the stories that you tell yourself. And what I hear is what I recommend to people. If you've got a flight, if you're anxious, you still have anxiety, I think and you've got more than 7 days, I recommend to people to consider doing the Clear for Takeoff 201 course online, because it's going to get you into our monthly coaching calls. And I think that's one of the best things. Maybe the 201 course isn't for you. Maybe what you want to start with is the monthly coaching, but certainly consider listening or looking to the weekly shows like this, to listen to people's experiences like Claudia's here. consider doing that or watching the replays. Consider, if you don't do the 201 course right off, just sign up for one of the monthly coaching classes and just see how that works for you. But you want to educate yourself. You want to learn to interrupt your thinking, which is clearly what Claudia did. And you want to join a network of people so that know that. And do you have anybody around you that you get for support for? Do you fly by yourself?
I mean, my mom knows I'm a nervous flyer. My daughter knows I'm a nervous flyer, and my boyfriend knows I'm a nervous flyer. My two best friends do now too, but it's funny because one of my best friends that flew with me to India, he refers to himself as my emotional support peacock. It was a joke because it's something we saw online where like a woman took on a peacock as her emotional support animal, and we were just thinking how outlandish that is. So that's what he refers to me as. But another thing that I found really interesting is, so I'm on Instagram and I posted in my story about how nice the flight attendants were and all that. Yeah. And I had a girlfriend who I had previously flown from, I think it was Fort Lauderdale to California once years ago. And she messages me and she was like, wait, you're afraid of flying? And she had no idea because sometimes you just hide it that well. She is petrified of flying. And she spent half that flight laying on my lap crying with me patting her head. I mean, two grown women on a flight, her nerves put me into mom mode to where I didn't want to show her that I was nervous because she was so nervous. So there's a lot of people out there, and connecting to Wi-Fi. I posted on this page a couple of days ago, connecting to Wi-Fi is huge for me because then I can text. I'll text my mom, I'll text my daughter. Right. Whether we're texting about the actual flight or about anything else, it just kind of reminds me that, there's life down there.
Absolutely. And you can text me.
And I can text you too, although I don't like bugging you, but I really appreciated it because that announcement was like, okay, I don't even know how to process this. Like I thought I was good, but now I'm not, so that was super, super helpful.
Yeah.
I wrote some notes down of, what I found? There was someone else, there was some post I saw or something where someone that didn't like flying created a new story. It was a guy and created a new story by envisioning himself as a fighter pilot whenever it hits turbulence. And he like blasts music and like just kind of turns it into like a Top Gun kind of thing. And oddly enough, I did the same thing when I knew, I knew like around Memphis, we're going to hit some turbulence. I blasted music, and something about just distracting your mind that much took a lot of the physical feeling away. It just kind of turned into like, I don't know, like an adventure, if you will. So
the first step in activity in the 201 course is to write your story. And then the goal is to rewrite it. Right. And I literally have people, once upon a time, there was somebody named Claudia, and she had this fear of flying. And what happened when you write your triggers, when in this case, when the captain said significant turbulence, she had a meltdown because what was significant to her was this and yada. But that's exactly it. Do that. And I'll introduce some things like writing with your non-preferred hand. It helps keep your focus a little bit because
I've done that too. Yeah. From you.
Yeah. So anyway,
tapping is good for a lot of people.
Yeah. Any other words of wisdom, Claudia, for anybody out there that might see you?
I mean, I wrote a ton of stuff down. I guess a couple more things. I don't know if this will work for everybody, but it worked for me because of how I'm wired. I set a timer, like when the pilot said, this is going to be about 3 hours, 30 minutes, whatever the case is. As soon as we took off, I set a timer. I didn't really look at my phone when I knew we were early into the flight, but about an hour and a half in, when I looked down, it helped seeing that we only had an hour and a half left, because then it was like, okay, this is a short flight now. And then when we only had an hour left, it was like, oh, this is only like LA to Phoenix now. And somehow compartmentalizing it into like it's kind of like what you do on a treadmill. It made a difference in like, there's not that much time left. I've got this. The other one that I mentioned when we were chatting before is just a visual that my daughter sent me of Jello. Envision the plane in Jello. You're not going to just plummet out of the sky. The air's got you. When you start moving, it was intentional. And just, that really kind of helped in general for me anyway, because I love the view, but I don't like
Yeah.
high rises for that matter. I don't like that being that far from the ground.
It's the story we tell, but relating to to what you said about the use of a stopwatch, I'm recommending that now. As a matter of fact, we're building into the 201 much greater detail, and the monthly coaching calls. I've done 2 now. We're going to do a 3rd one a week from this Thursday, talking about fear of flying 911. Because that's really what most people need. They need to know, no matter what they've done, they need to know, okay, what happens when I'm there like Claudia and it overwhelms me? What do I do in that moment to get me out of a 10 down to a 9 so I can at least think of a few things? And one of the things that the 2 things that have been the most positive feedback have been using a stopwatch and breaking into some specific breathing activities. So one of the things I have coming up is I think I'm going to do a bonus webinar on breathing. I've got an expert out there that I've been talking to about that. So anyway, I really want to thank you for coming on. It was great to me, and thanks for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you can hang in there with us. We're going to close this in just a minute. I just want to remind everybody again. I'll check in with Eric and Dieter to see if we have any burning questions out there. I just want to remind you that the 301 is if you have any interest and you're going to be anywhere near LA on March 25th or Boston on March 11th, take a look. Whatever information you need, contact us for as much as you need. Let us know, because you really want to put that on your calendar, and you want to get the flights booked out there. Okay. And then the second thing is a week from this Thursday will be our monthly coaching call again. And like I said, we're going to talk about fear flying 911, what to do when you get overwhelmed, because that's really the meat of this. And we could probably talk about the same thing every month and hit some new people on that. But it's become a series now. So if you come to join the club, if you're not enrolled in the 201, where you get it as part of that, you can get access to the other 201 or the other monthly coaching calls as well. Dieter, anything from your point of view?
Well, first of all, I put all those links in the chat, both on the Facebook group as well as on the page. One of the things I do want to just say this one more time. March 11th, that's Boston. That's the Boston flight. You don't have to have the Cleared for Takeoff 201 online class, but if you do enroll in it, or you have done it previously, the online class, then you do get a $200 discount on the tuition for the 301, the flight class. You still have to buy your ticket on Southwest, and it's the same. That's the same also for March 25th in Burbank as well. So I just wanted to clarify it because somebody had a question about that.
And if you should not fly, I've got I forget who it is, but I'm going to respond to them tonight. If you should sign up for the 301 and you get to the airport and you decide it's not your day to fly, we'll talk to you about how to preserve your credit on Southwest for a year, and also we'll do the same for you, so you can come back and fly with us in a future class. Okay, Eric.
And I will make a big shout out, because we're preaching it all the time. If you really want to get over your fear of flying, the first thing is you book a ticket. And so Patricia Jackson, one of our Birds of a Feather members, she just posted basically a lifelong dream of hers, flying to Europe, to the UK, and she finally booked those tickets. So right on, Patricia. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Nothing moves you forward more and faster than booking a flight. So
For sure.
Diane, anything?
Not really.
Okay. Tell them about your Starbucks thing. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a real nice thing. And as Claudia said, one of the nicest things is for passengers to board just to smile and say hi and nice to see you, and just smiling at us. And you would be amazed at how far that goes. I mean, a Starbucks card, all those things are nice, but just interacting with us when you board is really very pleasant for us. And as she said, when I encounter a nervous flyer, I do always try to talk with them several different times during the flight and explain what the sounds are. So
Yeah.
most of us try to do those kinds of things, as long as you all tell us that you're a little nervous flyer. We need to know that.
If we had to condense everything we're about, it's about getting you to buy a ticket and teaching you what the sights, sounds, and sensations are. Once you know that, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
Eric?
I had those detailed answers prepped for those questions if they come in. If they come in next week, great. And this will be an exciting show where I actually did not say anything and we could market it as such. So that would be all right. Might be a big
All right. So
Okay.
thanks to all of you, Dieter and Diane and Eric, and thanks to all of you for watching. And thanks again, especially to Claudia for having the courage to come on and share her experiences. And we hope you'll come back next week and every week for Fearless Flight Live. Have a good week, everybody.